The champagne glass felt cold in my hand as I watched the boardroom fill with laughter. We had just hit our biggest quarter ever, and my product was the reason why. At 27, I was the youngest team lead at Hale Industries, and my boss Derek was treating me like his golden child. "Rhea, you made this happen," Derek said, raising his glass toward me. The whole room clapped, and I felt my cheeks burn with pride. I had worked 18-hour days for months to build this software platform. It was my baby, my breakthrough. That's when the doors burst open. Federal agents in dark suits flooded into the room like a nightmare coming to life. "Rhea Vallon?" one agent asked, pulling out handcuffs. "You're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy." My glass shattered on the marble floor. The room went dead silent as cold metal clicked around my wrists. I looked at Derek, waiting for him to defend me, to tell them this was crazy. Instead, I saw something that made my blood freeze. The tiniest smile curled at the corner of his mouth. In that moment, I knew the truth. He had planned this. The police station smelled like old coffee and fear. Under harsh fluorescent lights, Detective Robin slammed a thick folder on the metal table in front of me. Inside were emails with my name on them, bank statements showing money I'd never seen, and contracts I'd never signed. "We have everything, Rhea," Robin said, his voice cold. "The shell companies, the fake vendors, the stolen funds. You thought you were smart, but you left a trail." I stared at the papers in shock. Every document looked real, but I knew I hadn't done any of this. "Someone faked these," I whispered. "I swear to you, I never." "Save it for the judge," Robin interrupted. An hour later, Derek walked in with 3 expensive lawyers behind him. He wore his best concerned boss face as he sat across from me. "Rhea, I'm shocked," he said, shaking his head sadly. "I trusted you. We all did." The lawyers whispered to the detective while Derek leaned closer to me. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "You were getting too close to things you shouldn't see. This is better for everyone." Then he patted my shoulder like I was a sick child and walked away, leaving me alone with the truth. The courthouse was packed with reporters and cameras. I sat at the defendant's table in a cheap gray suit, watching my life get destroyed piece by piece. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Victoria Cross, pointed at me like I was poison. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Rhea Vallon was the architect of theft," she announced. "She used her position to steal over $2 million from her own company. She betrayed everyone who trusted her." Derek took the witness stand in his perfect navy suit. He spoke with calm sadness about discovering my crimes, how disappointed he was, how he never suspected his trusted employee was a thief. The jury hung on every word. When it was my turn to testify, I tried to explain. I tried to tell them about the real Derek, about how the evidence was fake, but my lawyer was overworked and underpaid. He barely tried to defend me. "Guilty on all counts," the jury foreman said. The judge sentenced me to 5 years in federal prison. As the bailiff led me away in chains, I heard a reporter shout, "Do you regret what you did?" I looked straight into the camera and said, "I didn't do this." But nobody believed me. My first night in prison, I lay on a thin mattress that smelled like bleach and despair. The cell walls were concrete blocks painted a sickly green color. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness, each drop counting down the seconds of my stolen life. A guard walked by and called me CEO in a mocking voice. Another inmate laughed and said, "Look at the princess in her castle." The words stung worse than the cold air creeping through the barred window. I pulled the scratchy blanket over my head and felt panic rise in my chest like floodwater. This place was designed to break people, to make them forget who they used to be. The noise never stopped. Women crying, guards shouting, metal doors slamming shut like thunder. 5 years. 5 years of this hell because Derek needed a scapegoat for his crimes. I thought about my apartment, my car, my life, all gone now. My few friends probably thought I was guilty. My family was too ashamed to visit. But as I lay there in the dark, something hard and cold grew inside me. It wasn't hope. It was something stronger. It was the promise that someday, somehow, I would make him pay. The prison library became my escape. It was quiet there, away from the chaos of the cell blocks. I spent every free hour reading law books, business journals, anything that could help me understand what had happened to me. That's where I met Lillian Hudson. She was in her 60s with silver hair and sharp gray eyes that seemed to see everything. While other inmates gossiped or watched TV, Lillian sat in the corner reading thick books about economics and technology. "You're the one from the news," she said one day, looking up from a newspaper clipping about my case, the tech executive who stole millions. "I didn't steal anything," I said quietly. Lillian studied me for a long moment. Then she smiled, not mockingly, but with understanding. "I believe you. I was framed too, 20 years ago. My business partner wanted me gone, so he made me disappear." She told me she had been a successful entrepreneur before prison, building companies and creating jobs, but one corrupt partner had destroyed everything she'd built. "The difference between us," she said, "is that you still have time to fight back." That afternoon, she showed me a worn notebook filled with her careful handwriting. "This," she said, "is how you win." The notebook was like a treasure map to a world I'd never seen. Lillian had spent decades designing the perfect business plan, a health platform that could help millions of people manage anxiety and mental health. It was brilliant, combining artificial intelligence with real medical care. "I was too old when I got out," Lillian explained, turning the pages slowly. "But you're young, you're smart, and after what they did to you, you're hungry." The business model was detailed and perfect. She had mapped out everything: the technology, the partnerships, the funding strategy, even the marketing plan. It was worth millions, maybe billions. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. Lillian's eyes grew distant. "Because some fights are bigger than revenge. Derek Hale hurt you, yes, but there are thousands of women out there being crushed by men like him every day. This platform could help them heal. And it could make you powerful enough to stop men like Derek forever." I stared at the diagrams and business plans, feeling my heart race. This wasn't just a way to get back at my boss. This was a chance to build something real, something that mattered. "Teach me," I said. Lillian smiled. "We start tonight." Our lessons happened after lights out, whispered in the darkness of the library storeroom. Lillian taught me things they don't cover in business school: how to read people, how to build power quietly, how to turn enemies into allies without them knowing. "Don't just win," she would say, tapping the notebook's margins. "Become unbeatable. When you get out, they'll try to destroy you again. Be ready." She taught me about finance, about legal strategy, about negotiation. But most importantly, she taught me patience. "Revenge that comes too fast burns out quickly," she said. "But revenge that grows slowly and carefully, that revenge changes the world." Months passed like this. While other inmates counted days until release, I counted lessons. I memorized every page of that notebook, every strategy, every detail. Lillian made me practice pitching the business plan until I could recite it perfectly. On my first anniversary in prison, she pressed something small and silver into my palm. It was a simple ring with a number engraved inside, so tiny I could barely see it. "When you get out," she whispered, "call this number. Tell them Lillian Hudson sent you. He's a lawyer who still owes me a favor." I found Lillian collapsed in the prison infirmary on a cold Tuesday morning. The doctor said her heart was giving out. Too much stress, too many years of anger eating her alive. I sat by her bed as machines beeped softly around us. "Don't waste your life proving him wrong," she whispered, her voice like paper rustling. Her hand felt cold and fragile in mine. "Build something so right, so perfect that he can't exist in the same world as you." The heart monitor showed a straight green line. The steady beat became a long, flat hum that seemed to fill the entire room. I held her hand until it grew cold, then carefully folded the thin hospital blanket over her face. Standing alone in that sterile room, I made a promise out loud. "I will build your dream, Lillian, and I will use it to destroy the man who put me here." The nurse asked if I wanted to say a prayer. Instead, I closed my eyes and memorized every detail of Lillian's face, every word she had taught me, every page of that precious notebook. She had given me more than business knowledge. She had given me purpose. Derek Hale had no idea what was coming for him. The lawyer's name was Cleo Cornell, and Lillian's ring got me 5 minutes on the phone with him. That was all I needed. Within 6 months, he had filed a motion claiming prosecutorial errors in my case. Technical stuff about evidence handling and witness testimony. "It's not about innocence yet," that Cornell explained during one of our calls. "First, We get you out on a technicality. Then we prove you were framed. On a gray Monday morning in my 4th year, a guard unlocked my cell and said, "Pack your things. You're leaving." The release process took 3 hours of paperwork and waiting in plastic chairs. They gave me back my belongings in a clear bag, a wallet with $12, an old cell phone, and the clothes I'd worn to court. Everything else in my life was gone. Standing outside the prison gates, I breathed free air for the first time in 4 years. It tasted like exhaust and possibility. A taxi driver looked at me suspiciously when I climbed into his cab with my single plastic bag. "Where to?" he asked. I gave him the address of the courthouse downtown. It was time to become someone new. Time to become the woman who would bring down Derek Hale. The courthouse clerk barely looked up when I filed the name change paperwork. Ria Vallon was dead, destroyed by lies and corruption. Ria Valla would take her place, similar enough that I'd answer to it, different enough that background checks might miss the connection. I rented a tiny studio apartment with money Cleo Cornell had advanced me. It was smaller than my prison cell, but it was mine. The walls were white and clean, and nobody could lock me inside. I bought a used laptop from a pawn shop and set up a desk made from a door and 2 milk crates. Above it, I pinned Lillian's ring to a piece of corkboard. It wasn't a trophy, it was a taut compass, pointing toward the future we had planned together. That first night of freedom, I opened the laptop and began typing. Every word of Lillian's notebook flowed from my fingers like muscle memory. The business plan, the technical specifications, the market analysis, all of it perfect. All of it ready. By dawn, I had a complete proposal for Hudson Health, the platform that would change everything. I named it after Lillian, though no one would ever know. The woman in the mirror looked older, thinner, but her eyes burned with purpose. Derek had tried to erase Ria Vallon. He had created something much more dangerous. The WeWork space smelled like coffee and ambition. Young entrepreneurs hunched over laptops, chasing dreams with the desperation of people who had never lost everything. I felt ancient at 31, carrying secrets they couldn't imagine. My first investor pitch was to a small angel group that met in a cramped conference room above a sandwich shop. 5 people in casual clothes checking their phones while I set up my laptop. Hudson Health, I began, uses artificial intelligence to provide personalized mental health support. We reduce anxiety relapses by 60% and cut employer healthcare costs by 30%. I spoke with quiet authority, backing every claim with data Lillian had taught me to gather. This wasn't just a business, it was a weapon disguised as healing, a way to help people while building the power I needed. One investor, a woman named Andrea Robin, leaned forward. "The clinical results are impressive. Who's your target market?" "Everyone who's ever been broken by someone with power," I said simply. "Which is most people." After an hour of questions, Andrea smiled. "We'll lead your pre-seed round, 500,000 to start." Walking home, I called Lillian's ring and whispered, "We did it. Phase 1 is complete." 6 months later, I signed our first major pilot program with Bridgeport Industries and their partner clinic network. The platform I'd built was everything Lillian had dreamed: smart, compassionate, effective. Dr. Miranda Bain, the lead clinician, called me after reviewing our first quarter results. "Rhea, I've been in mental health for 15 years. I've never seen anything like this. Your platform doesn't just treat symptoms, it prevents crises before they happen." The data was beautiful. Emergency room visits down 40%, patient satisfaction scores through the roof, insurance companies begging to partner with us. But the most important number was different. 847 people had avoided serious mental health crises because of our work. That night, I walked home through empty streets, crying and laughing at the same time. I thought about Lillian, about how proud she would be. We weren't just building a business, we were saving lives. But I also thought about Derek, still sitting in his glass tower, still destroying good people for profit. The platform was working, growing, becoming powerful. Soon it would be strong enough to crush him, and I would be ready to pull the trigger. The photographer adjusted the lighting for the 3rd time. "Can you smile a little more naturally?" she asked. I tried, but smiling felt strange after everything I'd been through. The marketing team was building my public image as Ria Val, the mysterious founder who preferred privacy to publicity. My biography was carefully written. MIT graduate, former consultant, passionate about mental health innovation. All true, technically. Nobody connected Rhea Valen, the disgraced executive who'd made headlines 4 years ago. That woman had disappeared into prison and shame. This woman was clean, successful, rising fast in Silicon Valley's mental health revolution. I hired carefully, overlooked women and men who understood what it felt like to be underestimated. My head of engineering was a brilliant woman who'd been passed over at 3 major companies. My head of sales was a transgender man who'd been fired for not fitting the culture. We worked with the desperate hunger of people who'd been given a second chance, and we built something magnificent. By the end of year 1, Hudson Health had 12 employees, $2 million in revenue, and a wait list of companies begging to use our platform. Derek Hale still had no idea I existed. But that was about to change. The Health Tech Gala was Silicon Valley at its most ridiculous. A ballroom full of people in designer clothes pretending to care about helping people while calculating how much money they could make. I wore a simple black dress and stood in the corner, watching Derek work the room. He hadn't changed much, still handsome in a politician's way, still charming everyone, while his eyes calculated their usefulness to him. His company, Hale Industries, had pivoted to wellness apps after I went to prison. Their flagship product was a shallow meditation app that promised to cure anxiety in 30 days. It was garbage, but it had pretty colors and celebrity endorsements. I approached him during the cocktail hour. "Mr. Hale, I'm Rhea Valen from Hudson Health. I've heard so much about your work." He turned toward me with his practiced smile, no recognition in his eyes. "Of course, the mysterious founder. We should discuss synergies between our platforms." "I don't think we're compatible," I said softly. "Your approach is quite different from ours." He laughed condescendingly. "Well, when you've been in this business as long as I have." I smiled and walked away, leaving him talking to empty air. He had no idea he'd just met his executioner. Phase 2 was ready to begin. Priya Rao was everything Derek wasn't. Brilliant, honest, and tired of fake entrepreneurs making promises they couldn't keep. She managed a $2 billion fund that focused on healthcare innovation. I met her at a quiet wine bar downtown, away from the Silicon Valley spotlight. She'd agreed to the meeting after seeing our clinical trial results. "Your platform actually works," she said, reviewing our data over a glass of Pinot Noir. "Most mental health apps are just digital snake oil. But this could change the industry." I leaned forward. "What if I told you we could make Hale Industries irrelevant within 2 years?" Priya's eyes sharpened. "I'd say that's exactly what this industry needs. Derek Hale has been selling false hope for too long." She introduced me to her network, not just investors, but former regulators, respected clinicians, and journalists who covered healthcare fraud. People who could help me build credibility while tearing down Derek's reputation. By the end of the evening, we had a plan. Priya would lead a Series A funding round that would value Hudson Health at $50 million. More importantly, she would help me acquire a controlling stake in Hale Industries through shell companies and friendly investors. The net was closing around Derek. He just didn't know it yet. Building a war chest took patience and precision. Working with Priya, I created 3 family trusts that began quietly buying Hale Industries stock whenever it dipped. Nothing suspicious, just smart money recognizing an undervalued asset. Meanwhile, I recruited Dr. Amanda Foster, a former FDA regulator who'd left government service disgusted by corporate influence on healthcare policy. Her presence on Hudson Health's advisory board sent a clear message. We played by the rules, unlike some companies. Each month, our trusts accumulated more Hale Industries shares. 5%, then 8%, then 12%. Derek had no idea that his mysterious new shareholders were actually controlled by the woman he'd tried to destroy. The beauty of the strategy was its simplicity. We weren't doing anything illegal or even unethical. We were just better at capitalism than he was. While Derek focused on flashy marketing and celebrity endorsements, we built real value through better products and smarter financial planning. By winter, our coalition controlled nearly 20% of his company. Not enough to take over, but enough to cause serious problems when the time was right. The chessboard was almost ready. Derek still thought he was playing checkers. Owen Park was the kind of private investigator who looked like an accountant, quiet, methodical, invisible. He'd spent 20 years tracking financial crimes for the FBI before going freelance. Cleo Cornell recommended him when I was ready to dig up the truth about my frame-up. "The evidence against you was very clean," Owen said, spreading files across a coffee shop table. "Too clean. Real financial crimes are messy, full of mistakes and contradictions. This looks like someone built a perfect story." He'd spent months following digital breadcrumbs, shell companies, payment records, email server logs that IT departments never fully delete. What he found made my hands shake with fury. The vendor Orabyte Solutions that supposedly received your stolen money? It was registered to a Cayman Islands address 3 days after Derek started planning your termination. The bank routing numbers trace back to accounts he controlled. Email timestamps showed that the incriminating messages were created on Derek's personal laptop, then backdated and inserted into the company system. Even the handwriting analysis on forged documents pointed to him. Owen had samples from his old business contracts. "We have enough to clear your name," Owen said quietly, "and enough to put him away for a very long time." I stared at the evidence, feeling 5 years of buried rage finally have a target. "Make sure it's bulletproof," I said. "I want no escape routes." The journalist met me at dawn on a bench near the courthouse where I'd been convicted 5 years earlier. Rebecca Stone had made her reputation exposing corporate fraud, and she understood the importance of protecting sources. "I need your word that you'll verify everything independently," I said, handing her a thick envelope. "Don't trust me. Don't trust anyone. Follow the money." Inside were copies of Owen's investigation, bank records, email forensics, shell company registrations. Everything needed to unravel Derek's web of lies. But I'd removed any evidence that could trace back to me or my investigation. "The vendor Orabyte Solutions is the key," I explained. "Cross-reference their Cayman Islands filing with Derek Hale's offshore accounts from 2018. The patterns will tell the story." Rebecca's eyes widened as she scanned the documents. "This is enormous. How did you get this?" "Someone who cares about justice," I said, standing up. "Check the digital signatures on the email evidence. Your IT forensics expert will find interesting patterns in the metadata." I walked away without looking back, disappearing into the morning crowd. By evening, Rebecca would have enough confirmed facts to start asking very dangerous questions, and Derek would have no idea what was coming. The avalanche was about to begin. Derek called Eval's office 3 days after Rebecca's first article appeared. "Healthcare executive under investigation for fraud," the headline read. Nothing definitive yet, but enough to make his stock price wobble and his board nervous. He invited me to his private club, the kind of place with leather chairs and oil paintings where rich men made deals that destroyed lives. I arrived exactly on time, wearing a simple gray dress that made me look younger and less threatening. "Eval," he said, standing to shake my hand. "Thank you for coming. I know we got off on the wrong foot at the gala." "Business is business," I replied, sitting across from him at a polished mahogany table. He looked older, more desperate. The investigation was taking its toll. "I'll be direct," he said. "I need a partnership with Hudson Health. My board is pushing for innovative solutions, and your platform could help us weather this temporary difficulty." What he meant was that he wanted to buy my company for pennies and steal my technology. Just like he'd stolen my freedom 5 years earlier. I sipped my water and slipped Lillian's ring onto my finger where he could see it. "Mr. Hale, you once taught me what a cage feels like. I don't build them for other people." His face went pale. For just a moment, recognition flickered in his eyes. But it was too late. The law offices of Cornell and Associates had grown since my release. Cleo Cornell now employed 6 attorneys, most of them working on cases like mine, executives framed by corrupt bosses, whistleblowers destroyed by the companies they tried to protect. "The petition to vacate your conviction is ready," Cornell said, sliding a thick document across his desk. "Owen's evidence is attached as Exhibits A through M. The forensic analysis alone is devastating." I signed my name carefully on each page. Rhea Vale, petitioning to clear the name of Rhea Valen. The woman I used to be deserved justice, even if she was gone forever. In another conference room, Priya was finalizing the final phase of our financial strategy. Our coalition now controlled 22% of Hale Industries stock, enough to block any major corporate decisions Derek might try to make. His board is meeting tomorrow, Priya said, checking her phone. They're discussing his future with the company. Your petition filing today will be the final straw. The timing was perfect. The gala was tomorrow night, the annual Healthcare Innovation Awards, where Rhea Vale was scheduled to accept an award for Outstanding Entrepreneur of the Year. Derek would be there, expecting to see a rising competitor. Instead, he would face his past. All the pieces were in position. Time for checkmate. The ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and the laughter of people who'd never spent a night in prison. I stood backstage, adjusting my midnight blue dress and thinking about Lillian. She should have been here to see this moment. The host introduced me as visionary founder Rhea Vale, whose innovative platform has revolutionized mental health care. I walked to the microphone, pausing at the podium as cameras flashed and the audience applauded. I could see Derek in the crowd, clapping politely, still having no idea what was about to happen. "Thank you," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the room. "But before I accept this award, I need to tell you who I really am." The room quieted. I reached up and unpinned my name badge, letting it fall to the floor. My name is Rhea Valen. 5 years ago, I was framed for fraud by Derek Hale and sent to prison for crimes I never committed. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Cameras swung toward Derek, whose face had gone white as paper. Security guards moved toward him as reporters shouted questions. "Today I filed a petition with evidence proving my innocence and his guilt," I continued. "Justice delayed is not justice denied." The room erupted in chaos, but I stood calm at the center of it all, finally free to speak the truth. The FBI raids began at dawn. I watched the news coverage from my apartment, sipping coffee as federal agents carried boxes of evidence from Derek's offices. His company's stock price crashed by 40% in pre-market trading. By noon, his board had convened an emergency meeting. 3 major clients had already canceled contracts with Hale Industries, switching to Hudson Health instead. The exodus was beginning. Priya called me at lunch. "He tried to force his way into the board meeting," she said, barely containing her laughter. "Security had to escort him out. His own security badge had been deactivated." The news cycle moved fast. Rebecca Stone's follow-up article detailed the evidence against Derek, complete with expert analysis of the forged documents. Other journalists picked up the story, each one adding new details about his web of corruption. My phone rang constantly. Interview requests, partnership offers, congratulations from people I'd never met. But the call that mattered most came at sunset. "Rhea, this is Detective Robin from the Financial Crimes Unit. We're issuing warrants for Derek Hale's arrest. Thank you for your patience. Justice is coming." I hung up and looked at Lillian's ring on my finger. "We did it," I whispered to her memory. The monster was finally caught. The courtroom was the same one where I'd been convicted 5 years earlier. The same judge, older now with gray hair, presided over Derek's trial. But this time I sat in the gallery watching justice unfold. The evidence was overwhelming. Owen Park testified about the forged documents. Rebecca Stone explained how she'd verified the financial records. Even Derek's own IT contractor flipped, admitting he'd helped fake the email evidence in exchange for a reduced sentence. Derek sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, no longer the powerful executive in expensive suits. His lawyers tried their best, but the facts were undeniable. He had framed an innocent woman to cover his own crimes. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" the judge asked. "We have, Your Honor," the foreman replied. "We find the defendant guilty on all counts of fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice." The cameras captured Derek's face as the handcuffs clicked shut. For 5 years I had dreamed of this moment. Now that it was here, I felt something unexpected. Not happiness, but peace. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked if I felt vindicated. "Justice isn't about revenge," I said simply. "It's about making sure this never happens to anyone else." But privately, I thought about Lillian and smiled. Judge Powell looked older as he reviewed my petition, the same man who'd sentenced me 5 years earlier. The courtroom was packed with reporters, supporters, and legal observers who'd come to witness history. After reviewing the overwhelming evidence of prosecutorial error and newly discovered facts, he said, his voice carrying the weight of remorse, I hereby vacate the conviction of Rhea Valen and order her record expunged. This court acknowledges that a grave miscarriage of justice occurred. The gavel fell with finality. I was officially innocent, not just free on a technicality. The woman who'd entered this courtroom in chains 5 years ago was finally vindicated. Outside, microphones and cameras surrounded me. What's next for you? A reporter asked. I held up Lillian's notebook, worn now but still precious. I'm announcing the Hudson Foundation, I said, will provide legal aid and seed capital for wrongly accused executives and overlooked entrepreneurs. No one should face what I faced alone. That evening, I visited Lillian's grave for the first time. I placed a single white rose on her headstone and whispered, "We built your dream, and we used it to change the world." The cemetery was quiet, peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. Justice wasn't just done. It was beautiful. The opening bell at the stock exchange echoed through the trading floor like thunder. I stood before a crowd of employees, investors, and reporters as Hudson Health went public under the ticker symbol HEAL. Behind me, a massive screen showed our opening price, $47 per share, valuing the company at $2.8 billion. The audience erupted in cheers as confetti fell like snow from the ceiling. I thought about my journey, from the boardroom where Derek destroyed me, through the hell of prison, to this moment of triumph. Lillian would have been so proud to see her dream become reality. They thought they buried me, I said into the microphone, my voice carrying across the trading floor and out to millions watching on television. They didn't know I was a seed. I reached up and rang the brass bell, officially launching Hudson Health as a public company. The sound reverberated through the building like a declaration of victory. As the celebration continued around me, I stepped back and touched Lillian's ring. We had built something bigger than revenge, more lasting than justice. We had built hope. Derek Hale was in federal prison, his empire destroyed. I was standing at the top of a new empire, one built on healing instead of harm. The seed had grown into a mighty tree, and its roots would nurture justice for generations to come.